Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
If I watch Chuck Todd on Sunday, I want to shoot myself by the end of seeing him because he just spews liberal venom, and it's kind of hard to sit in stomach, even if he has a pretty mainstream conservative on.
The conservative echo chamber created that environment.
Watching people in suits sit around a table and duke it out over politics is a Sunday routine for many, but not for Chris Myers.
I think for most conservatives, kind of watching our views or the way that we perceive the world get trashed is just a kind of natural state of the play right now.
The Chicago Young Republicans president says he can't get his news from most networks or publications because he and his colleagues feel they inaccurately portray his party. And it's a feeling that's backed up by statistics. A Pew Research study found 73% of Republicans surveyed don't feel the news media understands who they are or what they're about.
Who are you based on what they say?
Sure. I think a big thing that, conservatives are impersonal, right? We don't value people. We value tax cuts and money and pro-life and all these things that aren't personal down at the working level. And to a degree, I think they're right in the way that we've portrayed ourselves as conservatives. We've done a really bad job.
But the group agrees Fox is the easiest news network to watch.
I would say Fox does a good job of having different perspectives on their panels.
And the president's sitting here thinking about himself and not the country.
But wait. What about the argument?
I think that is important, and that's something that I haven't really seen on other networks in recent years.
And I feel like a lot of times when people are reporting on conservatives, you hear about Breitbart a lot.
Yeah.
What are your feelings about platforms that represent the left or the right in that way?
Some of those are extreme as well. So just as you have far left newspapers and sources, we also have far right like Breitbart and some of these others that are just a little too controversial.
Speaking of controversial,
it's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write.
President Trump has made numerous controversial statements about the news media. He doesn't hide the fact that he feels like the 3/4 of Republicans in Pew's study.
Right now, you are President of the United States, yet it seems like you just feel this need to push back at perceived enemies.
No, at false stories, at fake news. Nobody has any idea how corrupt the media is.
But these Chicago Republicans say his term as president has driven a wedge further between the party and how the media portrays the party.
So it's really hard to come out and say, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, because immediately they think that you're hateful and they want to attack you and target you, especially as a woman. I think conservative women have it really hard right now. You're labeled as a traitor to your gender just by being conservative, when I don't feel that way at all. I'm a woman and I'm empowered, and I know that because I'm a conservative woman.
However, they believe journalists are maybe a little too empowered. That's why they say they're glad the president calls out journalists when they believe reporting falls short.
While I disagree maybe with some of the ways that it's gone about sometimes of calling it out, it is good because people need to see and need to hear and be reminded that what they're reading, what they're seeing may not necessarily be true as a result of the people that are controlling what they're trying to put out into American households.
I spoke with the Society of Professional Journalists head of ethics about Americans' trust in news organizations reaching record lows in the past few years.
Maybe there is valid criticism that is about our content, and in some cases it is valid criticism. If we did something that is not as good as it can be, let's admit it, and let's try to be better by doing a follow-up story. Those are things journalists can do.
She says news consumers should engage with journalists directly when they believe coverage is unfair. Instead, many stories are written off as fake news, whether they're true or not, and the consequences of that label have been devastating.
And I wonder if this idea of fake news, if you see it as being potentially dangerous.
It's a sad state for society if we have to go to the point where journalists are in danger, but journalism as a profession was really around reporting the news as it was happening and reporting the facts of the news. So, society, it's sad that we have that happen, and obviously, that's not the ideal place, or that's not what any of us wants for society.
What they do want is to improve the narrative of their party. They say that responsibility falls both on news publications and Republicans themselves.
How are you all trying to combat that? Or can you, do you feel?
So I think it comes down to how we as an organization and we as conservatives here in Chicago, when we are out living our everyday lives in the city, how we dialogue with just fellow citizens here.
I think we're the party of self-empowerment, economic empowerment. We want people to, climb the ladder, achieve their American dream. And so we want to support them through that, through less economic and government regulation, less government programs. If we can get that message out to people, that we are people-focused and we are humanistic, we're not heartless, that's really the message that most conservatives feel and believe.